Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us to this Ask the Expert with Microsoft Viva. We hope you've had an opportunity at this Ignite to learn a little bit more about Microsoft Viva, but I have a great panel of experts who are ready for your questions, so please do put them in the chat. As ever, this is part of the Microsoft Code of Conduct, so please do ask awesome questions and be respectful and like each other as part of this. So I wanted to introduce a little bit about Microsoft Viva. And if you're not familiar with Viva, there have been some sessions this week at Ignite, but we could also go through a little bit of the modules in there as well. So Microsoft Viva is really that platform that's creating a new employee experience, and hoping that Victoria can show us the next slide, and then we'll be able to look at those modules together. Here's just a little bit about the way that we're empowering people and teams together. So there are 4 modules as part of Microsoft Viva right now, part of that platform. And the awesome thing is they all have a great set of experiences and they work well together as well. So I'm going to move us on to the first set of questions, because I do see questions coming in. So thank you so much. Here is our panel of experts. So we have Brad McCabe, who's joining us from the Viva Connections team. So he's going to take your questions there. We have Wendy, who's often in the Viva Insights team, so it's awesome to have her too. And John Mile, who's from Viva Learning. So lots of awesome people, and I will be your token host here on Talk About Viva Topics too. Okay, let's check out some of these questions. So they're coming in thick and fast already. All good. So let's talk about connections first, if you don't mind, Brad. Sarah has a great chat here. Says, is the content on connections able to be dynamic to the user? So not exclusive to the news based on tagging, but also which of the widgets that can be surfaced. So just obviously understanding a little bit more about the roles and the personalization that we're doing there as part of Viva Connections.
Sounds good. So the short answer is yes. But now let me kind of dissect that a little bit and go a little bit deeper into it. So, there's the dashboard and the feed. So let me talk about both a little bit separate. So the feed, as you are publishing content with things like SharePoint, you can go ahead and publish that content in using the audience tagging features that you already have inside of SharePoint, so that all of that can come through and be targeted. Then there is also some AI and ML that is running as well on the feed to help try to bring relevant content up there. Similarly, on the dashboard with all of the cards there, if you take a look, you'll see in the Viva Connections session that Adam Hartman's did, that's available on demand. He'll actually show a demo of this in there, but as you're building out that dashboard, you can target those cards just like you target content. So if you have, say, an HR system that you want to show information as a card for people in the US and a different HR system for, say, employees in Europe, you can put both of those cards there and then target it that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brad. It's a great explanation of understanding that personalization and targeting of the different roles inside of your company. So next I'm going to head it over to Wendy, because we had a couple of questions that came in about Viva Insights. So Kirsty and Anonymous have asked a question about workplace analytics. So do you need workplace analytics to fully support what we're doing with Viva and Insights? And do you need to have that as part of the Viva Insights offering? So it'd be great to get your take on that, Wendy.
Yeah, so the exciting thing about Viva Insights is that we're trying to be able to personalize to different folks within the organization. So some of the things that we've announced in Viva Insights does require WPA or workplace analytics, and those are represented in the My Team and the My Organization features. But the features that we have coming, like Headspace integration and Stay Connected, which are very much within personal well-being, won't be available to everybody and do not require WPA or workplace analytics.
That's great. Thanks for clearing that up. It's really useful. So let's go next to John. So I see a couple questions that are coming in about Viva Learning. And so people are asking, what's the relationship between what we have with learning pathways and also with Viva? And then, would it be impacted, would Viva adoption be impacted if a current rollout and modification of pathways is in the works? So that comes from Cohort is the name. John?
Yeah, absolutely. So learning pathways are something that we are intending to integrate with Viva Learning. So that's on our roadmap. Any updates that are made to the learning pathways will be part of that integration. So it will be seamlessly integrated. I did want to address one other question. I see a few LMS, learning management systems questions in the chat as well about how to integrate. So at this point, we've announced partnerships with 3 learning management systems. We've announced with Cornerstone On Demand, Saba, and SAP SuccessFactors. So initially, those are the 3 LMSs we're working with, but as we continue to roll towards GA for Viva Learning, we will be announcing more partnerships with additional learning management systems, as well as additional API details for the broader partner ecosystem to integrate. So in terms of the questions about how exactly to integrate Viva Learning with existing LMSs, you're going to have to wait a little bit until we have public documentation about our APIs and the process there. But I promise that's in the works, and that's something that we're keeping as a high priority. And then one last question, Naomi, sorry, and then I'll back to you about the information flow between the LMSs and Viva Learning. So yeah, absolutely in our roadmap, we intend to have those systems right bidirectionally. So we'll be able to pull through the things like assignments and required trainings that an LMS keeps track of into Viva Learning, and course completions that are consumed within the Viva Learning app in Teams will write back to the LMS for the official record. So that's absolutely in the roadmap. Okay, back to you, Naomi.
Awesome. No, that was great. That's great information, John. Thanks for hitting a whole bunch of questions all at once there. So it's always good, always appreciated. I did see one question that I can answer, so I will do that. So Jessica is asking a little bit about Viva Topics and asking about, does Viva Topics automatically create topic cards based on the content that's inside of SharePoint, or do they all have to be created manually? And so yes, that is exactly what we're trying to do with Viva Topics, right? So we get to comb through all of the sites that you have in SharePoint, all the great content that you have in there, and you can actually set the scope of how that indexing happens inside of your organization. But with that comes the benefit of AI, basically to create those topic cards for you. So it'll proactively suggest topics, it'll figure those out from what it finds inside of your organization. And then of course you can add additional topics in there as well. And then you can of course curate those topics on top of that too. But think of it as kind of your intern, if you will, right? If you could just have an intern go through all of that great internet content and then figure out like a first cut of those topics, that's what Viva Topics is doing for you. And then a great system for how to manage that and curate that information. Okay, let's go to some of the next questions here. So there's a bunch of questions that are coming in. I see, gosh, there's a lot of questions. So let's talk a little bit more about connections. I think if Brad is still there. So that's great. So I think folks are asking, Dan has a great question of, can users access third-party web parts if they've been added into their Viva Connections start page, or are they just limited to the things that are currently in those tabs of feed, resources, and dashboard? Unmute, Brad. Unmute. Thank you.
I hate that mute button.
That's right.
No, so let me answer this one in 2 parts. So when we look at it from the desktop experience, right, which is what we had actually just announced today, we'll start GAing and start rolling out to folks this month. From the desktop, we're actually taking the work that you've done from your home site and we're bringing that inside of Teams, and we'll layer in with that over the summer, as we talked about on the Connections blog today, some new web parts around dashboard and feed. So everything that you're doing with your home site today, all of those third-party websites, etc., all of that will move forward with you in that desktop experience. On the mobile side of things, the mobile application is really tailored to that mobile experience. So you see those 3 main pivots of dashboard, feed, and resources. You'll be able to use third-party adaptive cards to build out the dashboard. You'll be able to provide content, whether it's through SharePoint, Yammer, or external content into the Microsoft feed, or into the Microsoft Graph, sorry, to show up on the feed. And so you can get to your content both ways.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much, Brad. It's great to know that extensibility that we know and love inside of SharePoint also extends into everything we do with Viva Connections. So Wendy, let's talk about insights some more. so Anonymous asks a question, says, hey, Viva Insights will be able to create custom insights that might encourage employees to do certain things based on triggers.
So right now we're building out all of these tools and what we call plans, right? And so right now we're asking individuals to sign up for their own plans and the question being like, will organizations be able to customize these plans and nudges for their organization? And the answer is right now that no, we are encouraging individuals to discover and personalize their own well-being experiences, but it is something that we have offered previously and are looking to support those motions in the future.
Oh, that's great. That's great. It's good. Good. You know, it's a good thing to get the first version of the product out there, right? And then build in the features as customers request them. So definitely something we like to do. There is one other question on insights, Wendy. So if you don't mind, we'll stay with you for a second. It says, are there any employee engagement metrics in insights beside the one-on-one manager and employee meetings? I feel like there's lots of employee engagement metrics in there. So are there other examples of ones other than the one-on-one manager and employee meetings?
Yeah, so let me pull up my own resources here.
Yeah,
so one of the things that we are looking at is we have like 9 kind of groupings of insights that we go around. They're organized around these like organizational outcomes, things like employee engagement, improve agility, foster innovation. And as we know, they're all like interconnected, but like these outcomes give you kind of like a more tangible view if you're looking at one outcome or the other. And so within employee engagement, we're looking at things like promoting coaching development. So that is what you mentioned, which is one-on-one. We have after hours and burnout, right? We're looking at, are people always on, right? And after hours is a really good measure of those things, as well as things like work week span, which is like the first time you log in versus the last. I mean, by you, I mean, this is like patterns, right? We are really looking at patterns across the organization because, again, like collaboration is not done in a silo, right? And we want to make sure that like across your organization that this isn't like a pervasive symptom. Things like the balance of like driving employee empowerment, right? Like what percentage of meetings with managers are like one-on-ones versus like the manager follows all of their directs into the meeting, and how do you like empower and increase efficacy within your organization? So there's a whole set of these insights, right? And they're all packaged together as out of the box insights, as well as deeper analyst tools that you get within workplace analytics.
Oh, that's great. It's great. Thanks for sharing those, Wendy. It's a very rich experience, I think, and it's worthy definitely to scroll to look at a little bit more into those insights. So let's talk a little bit about Viva Topics. So I see Cherie has a question. So I heard on an earlier session that Viva Topics will be able to edit it and managed by the experts. So how are the experts determined, and will they be different for each topic? So let's talk a little bit about that. So the first thing is, you know, we're working on the AI essentially taking that first cut, if you will, of a topic page. And so that topic page is being built by the first set of resources that we have available as part of that. So there's curation that could be done on top of that page. Now, the people that are suggested as part of the AI finding out what this topic is and what's it all about, the people who are suggested in there are something to do with that content. And it's because we're looking at all of that awesome activity data that we have inside of the Microsoft Graph. And so that's really the way that we help determine, like, you have some connection with the topic. We don't know exactly what that is. We don't know if you're the lead of the project, or, you know, whether you're the subject matter expert for the whole company or just for this project. But we know that you have some connection because you're collaborating in that space, and we can see that you have work patterns that are associated with that particular topic. Now, those folks are suggestions on there, and they can always go in and be curated. And the first set of folks that can curate that is a knowledge manager inside of your organization. So depending on how your company is structured and how your company wants to roll this out, you can either use this as kind of a centralized model where you've got knowledge managers who can go in and help to curate that, or the people who have access to the resources, and that's a very fundamental thing within Viva Topics. If you have access, i.e. you can actually see the resources that comprise the topics, then we know that you have some connection to that topic, and we can help to crowdsource that information from those people who have access to those resources. And so it's kind of a helpful way to be able to both indicate that there's collaboration that's happening around that topic. We could use the fact that we know that you're collaborating in this area and that you have access to those resources to help prompt you to say, are you really connected to this topic? Do you want to provide a better description? Can you help pin some resources on that topic page and actually build that out? So just a great way to be able to combine the best of what AI can do and what crowdsourcing can do while still maintaining all of those security and privacy controls as part of that too. Hopefully that helps with your question there too. It's a good question here. So Kristen is asking, are there any integrations that are planned with Adobe Connect and Adobe Captivate Prime? I suspect that's probably in your directions, Brad, in terms of connections, but other folks can feel free to answer too.
So we're working with a broad set of partners right now, some of whom we've announced, others that are still in the process that aren't ready to be announced. To date, there's been nothing publicly said about Adobe, and I don't really have anything to add there.
Okay, well, good. Just though we'd ask, right? It's interesting that folks are even thinking about it. So it's good to know. If you really want us to do that, Kristen, it's great feedback from that perspective. So,
good to hear.
Yeah. Exactly. So I'm just looking through some of these other questions. We have a lot of questions, folks. I apologize. So I'm trying to go as fast as I can to read through all of these as well. And then I see that folks are also answering these as well too. So I think it'd be good to talk about, Jenny has a question that says, with all of this new information that's coming into the team space, can you talk a little bit about how users can customize their experience? So can they actually choose to reduce how much they visually see, but receive notifications about content in a different way? So I think that's in the connection space too, Brad.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think about connections and the feed, it will work like pretty much any other feed out there, right? There's AI and such to help make it focused and targeted to you. But as you look at it, you'll see that information sort of sliding up in there as you will. You can consume it on your own time, your own pace. Similarly with the dashboard, right? There's a lot of information out there that folks could do through cards, whether it's reporting expenses or reporting your time off or looking at other HR systems or basically anything, because you can make custom cards out there, anything the business might decide to do for you. So you can engage with that sort of at your own time and your own pace, right? You can look at the dashboard as you've got a chance, you can see the information on the cards, and then you can take action as needed.
That's awesome. That's great. Thanks for sharing on that, Brad. And then Wendy, we had another question. Lauren asked about insights, and I see Malavik is also replying. So we are utilizing My Analytics as well as the Cortana briefing emails. I like the learning time and catch up on emails that it books for me on Fridays. Is there anything else coming out in the insight space for these kinds of topics?
Yes, so one of the most exciting things about being in the Viva space is being able to leverage our partners within learning and those pieces. And so the things that Insights are really interested in helping our users, right, is that motion of like protecting time and pairing it with the right content, as you saw Naomi's beautiful face in all of our screens, right, is to make sure that we understand those relationships within our product area. And so right now, like as we've announced, we have things like Headspace integration, and we have booking time for learning. And like, as you see within our focus plan right now, we automatically book those times for you, so you don't have to find the time. We can help you reschedule that time and protect it for the things that you're looking to do. And that's how we're going to evolve Insights into being a core part of Viva, the Viva experience.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Super helpful to learn more about that. So John, I have a couple of questions for you, and I'm going to try to merge these in a little bit here. So Dion has asked, are you positioning Viva Learning as an LXP, a learning experiences platform, rather than a learning management system? So that's the first one for you, John.
Yeah, good question. I would say of the different categories, I think that Viva as a whole is kind of breaking into this new category of employee experience platform. That's really what we are. And so Viva Learning is one category of that, one component of that employee experience platform. But if you had to make a comparison between the various different types of learning providers in the industry, and LXP would probably be the closest comparison, although I do think that we're offering something fundamentally different with our integration into Teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's great to hear. The other question that comes up quite a lot is about SCORM compliance. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about that and the LMS sources for that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So SCORM compliance and security and everything on that plate is absolutely top of mind for us. We are building Viva Learning to be SCORM compliant, and we're working with our various third-party content providers and LMSs to ensure that the content that we pull through from their sources into Viva Learning is also SCORM compliant.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great to hear. Thank you. All right, we have, let's see, 9 minutes left. So I'm just really looking through all the questions, hundreds of questions coming, so all good. Let me answer this question. Nikki said, hey, will topics comply with information barriers? Yes, it will. There's the simple answer on that, Nikki. So if you do have information barriers inside of your company, you essentially have a microcosm, if you will, inside of your organization for a specific information barrier area. So we will definitely use topics, will be different essentially. The implementation of topics is different within that information barrier than it is outside of that information barrier. So hope that helps too. Let's see, other questions. How many of the Viva features require an online mailbox? Interesting. So does that, I can't figure out if that's an Office 3, like, does it require Microsoft 365 question or Exchange, or is that, not sure who could answer that one. It's an interesting one. Okay, David says,
I would ask Wendy that.
Yeah.
Naomi, because a lot of that is a lot of the Insights work looks at the mailbox.
Inside of mailbox.
Insights.
Yeah, all of our features require Exchange Online. We do not, that is the base requirement for our Insights to show up. Even the basic tools like Emotional Check-in or Headspace also require the user's mailbox to be online. Awesome.
Good to know. Thank you. Yeah, I'm learning all kinds of things too. Even better. Whole purpose of having this. Let's see. Let's check through other questions here. I see David asked me a question. I'll get to that one in a second. So Dion, let's see. So Dion is asking, are there any components in Viva that require a company to share or contribute their data to a larger pool for the purposes of AI ML modeling, even if it's anonymized? So I thought that was a good question as well, folks. I know from the topics perspective, obviously all of the data that you have inside of organizations, even the learning that we do from that data, all of that stays within your company, right? Just to be very clear. So it does not get anonymized and then reflected into the greater model as part of that. But I was wondering, Wendy or John or Brad, if you have anything else to add on the other components of Viva. And how we learn on the AI side.
For connections, same thing. The data is your data. It stays in your tenant.
Exactly. It's the same for Insights as well. And a lot of our intelligence is like also doing basic things like, have you had a one-on-one with someone in your manager, right? So it's not requiring a lot of like that data sharing to exist.
Awesome. always good to know. We always want to make sure that folks understand that their data is always protected. That we're using all of those great insights just for their organization. Awesome. Okay, let me just check through other questions here. So let's see, folks are asking about connections to Azure as well. Gosh, there's a lot of questions here. So for connections, can you create, so that's Brad, can you create a group where users can subscribe to content? We desperately need a solution for employee resource groups, community involvement, teams, and etc. to communicate with all of their members.
I don't know that I would do that directly through connections. Remember that connections plugs inside of Teams, right? And this is where the experience is. So you can think of connections as providing you that dashboard with that feed. In the resources tab, you could subscribe or follow a site and have it show up there. Similarly, a Yammer community, but if you trying to build a community like that, I would probably look towards Yammer, depending on the size. If it's going to be a broad, vibrant community, if it's really focused down on a discussion around a single project, I might do that in a team. But whether, from a user point of view, whether it's showing up as a team in Teams, whether you're doing things in connections or you're using the communities app for Yammer, all of this is showing up inside the Teams experience. So that's probably how I tackle it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's important to understand how folks can leverage across Microsoft 365 with Yammer and Teams together and connections, all of those pieces. All right, so I've had a great questions for John on the integration with your learning management system partners. How far have these integrations come? Are you able to expose the LMS catalog items, or have you got Viva to be able to understand some of the history, etc., as part of that too? So maybe you could talk a little bit more about those integrations.
Yeah, so I will say that of the partner integrations that we announced with 4 content providers: Pluralsight, Coursera, edX, and Skillsoft, off the top of my head. The 3 LMSs that we've announced integrations with, Cornerstone On Demand, Saba, and SAP SuccessFactors, those ones are coming on a little bit later than the content providers, simply because those integrations are just more complicated. The 4 content providers already have their content flowing into Viva Learning. And for those of us using the app internally, we can already see that and search through those content sources. For LMSs, we still have a little bit of work left to do. And so all I can say is stay tuned for additional details in the coming months. But a lot of the scenarios that I see in the chat and the ones addressed in that question are exactly what we're looking to do with our LMS integrations, and we're moving quickly on those.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. That's great to know. Another follow-on question for you as well, John, from Josh Johnson. He says, any hints on using Viva Learning for informal training or community-driven training as a way to log hours into an LMS? So it would actually cover a big existing demand for them.
Yeah, good question, Josh. So informal learning is one of the great features of Viva Learning, I think. The ability to create a training or just something that your colleague puts together in a Word document or a PowerPoint, store it on SharePoint, and then pull it through into Viva Learning that way. It really makes that micro learning and then sharing and discovering and talking about, chatting about those learnings super easy right within Teams. In terms of actual group, like virtual instructor-led trainings, if that's what you're kind of talking about, that's something that we do have on the roadmap, and we're working towards integrating that type of instructor-led training directly into Teams with Viva Learning, but I don't have a committed timeline on dates for that. But that's kind of one more aspect of that social learning that we're looking to add in. But that being said, I do think that all the features Viva Learning has right now to enable social learning make it a really powerful tool for that.
That's awesome. Awesome. So thank you for sharing all of that. I know that we have like literally 1 minute left. So I thought maybe it's good to go to the resources slide. Maybe folks could tell us a little bit about these resources and what people should do to learn a little bit more. So why don't we start off with John again with the Viva Learning preview, since many folks have asked.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a hot question. So Viva Learning private preview is closed. but we will be opening up public preview in April, which was the announcement that we made yesterday in our Viva blog, as well as the Viva Learning Ignite session. So definitely take a look at that if you have not yet. If you want to get ready for public preview, you can sign up at the link on screen, aka.ms/Viva Learning, and there's a link there where you can click sign up for updates. Fill out that form and you'll be first in line to be notified when public preview is available. That same link also has a partner sign up form where you can indicate your interest in anything partner related for Viva, and then we'll get you the information as soon as things like APIs are available. So definitely take a look at that link and fill out the form if you're interested.
Awesome. Thank you, John. All right, Brad, what should we do about connections?
So as we announced today, Connections, the desktop experience in Teams will be GAing later this month. We'll be sharing out more information about how to get it set up and such. So definitely pay attention on Tech Community to the Viva blog out there, and we'll share more about that. We'll share more about the mobile experience as we get close to that releasing over the summer. And in the interim, you can check out the link here for more information.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then Wendy, tell us a little bit about the Viva Insights app.
So our Viva Insights app is in preview right now, but available to everybody with Teams. And so would love if you all downloaded it and looked at our Stay Connected and Protect Time experiences, and as well as a lot of awesome new features, including like the virtual commute, headspace, and emotional check-ins. Those are all coming soon in the next couple months. So give us tell us what you like about it. We read every piece of feedback, so we're excited to see everyone's impressions.
Awesome, thank you. All good. And finally, just to cover up on Viva Topics here, this is a link to the Viva Topics tech community, an awesome resource center, and it's the great range of resources in there. There's demos, there's how to activate the trial so you can test out Viva Topics, and then also a bunch of resources to help you understand a little bit more about how Viva Topics fits in and what we also do with SharePoint Syntax. So please do check that out. Chris McNulty does an awesome job and his team on keeping that up to date and having lots of great content in there too. And likewise, I can say for every product team that we all read all of that feedback. So we definitely always appreciate it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, folks. I know we're at time already, so it's a really fast 30 minutes. I thank so much to all of my colleagues as well behind the scenes who've been madly answering hundreds of questions from you all. So thank you so much for your time and attention and being part of the journey with us on Microsoft Viva. So thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference.